Hello again. Now, South Africa is facing some tough times at present. If we're not sitting in the dark for days, we're grappling with rocketing fuel prices and taps running dry. This has had a major impact on several industries. Now, we face another day zero. This time in Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, where dam water levels have plummeted. Well, to discuss this water scarcity situation, I'm joined by Professor Anthony Turton from the Center for Environmental Management at the University of Free State. He's going to help us understand the impact of these water shortages in the long run. Prof, good afternoon and thank you very much for your time. Just a few years ago, I remember, I don't have all the details with me, there was like plans to address the water scarcity. We all told by those in power that South Africa is a semi-arid to arid country. There has to be plans, but a lot has happened since then and not much progress seems to have been achieved. Or am I reading this situation wrongly?
Good afternoon to Dan and to the listeners. Yes, we are sitting in a very strange situation now in South Africa where, as we speak now, approximately 80% of our dams are in the order of 80% full. So, we have a strange situation where everything except the Eastern Cape is between 80 and 90% full. Some of them at 100% full. This is an unusual and unprecedented situation. And it speaks to the fact that water scarcity is a complex issue. It's not just about the non-availability of water in the river or the dam. It's about the inability to get the water out of the river through a treatment plant, through thousands of kilometers of pipes into the homes of the end user, and more importantly, into the factories and the businesses that sustain the economy and provide employment to the country.
Yeah, and then I'm just thinking now, as you are talking about this complex picture, that from tonight, 5 p.m., we have load shedding again, and many of those water treatment plants rely on Eskom to pump that water and clean it, and that's also been a challenge on top of leakages.
Yes, you see, these all speak to institutional related issues. What you need to understand is from the 1960s onwards, the South African government of that moment in time, in the 1960s, the National Party government made a decision to start basing water security in the country on what was known as Interbasin transfer of water, or so-called IBTs. And the last information that I saw was that something like 7 of our provinces were dependent for more than about 70 to 80% of their water on interbasin transfers. And that interbasin transfer of water, in many cases, dependent on the surplus energy from the Eskom grid, use that surplus energy in off-peak periods to pump water over mountains and to store them in dams on top of mountains to be released the other side. And when the water was released the other side, they could recover something like 60% of the energy that they'd invested into pumping the water uphill. So the water and energy nexus in South Africa is extremely tightly linked. And of course, this is very sophisticated engineering and also requires very sophisticated management systems going into the future in terms of long-term planning, but also in terms of day-to-day management and operations.
Now, the day-to-day management and operations, that will speak to capacity issues, I guess. If you look at Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, there are issues, there are headaches around water being exacerbated by the recent drought. As you said in the beginning, we're sitting in a very odd situation where Eastern Cape is dry, the dams there are pretty much empty, but the rest of the country is sitting at around 80%. How important is it as well in water management to address the skills?
Well, the skills are very, very important because, unfortunately, the way our constitution is designed, the planning for water has to be done at the municipal level, but the provision of bulk water is done at national level. And unfortunately, we've lost all of our long-term planning skills. In fact, the Minister of Water about 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, made a public statement to the effect that something like 92% of our municipalities in South Africa lack the necessary water skills. But there's another element I'd like to just alert the listeners to. If we compare the day zero crisis in Cape Town with the current Nelson Mandela Bay Day Zero crisis, there's two fundamentally important differences there. In the case of Cape Town, the government was, you can consider them credible in the sense that when they called upon the public to reduce consumption, that happened. The public listened to what the government said. In the case of Nelson Mandela Bay, when the public is being asked to curtail use, they're not doing it. And part of that not doing it is either civil disobedience because they just don't trust government anymore, or they don't care about government anymore, or the other part of it is the fact that it's not within their hands to do it because such a substantial portion of the crisis arises from the fact that water is leaking into the ground from broken pipes, thousands and thousands of kilometers of broken and leaking pipes, so the individual can do nothing about it.
Infrastructure is also letting us down. Thank you very much, Professor Anthony Turton from the Center for Environmental Management at the University of Free State. Some of his thoughts and insights around the issue of water scarcity.